Hello, and welcome to Short Stories. Today's short story is a special one. It is the story of Samson from the Bible. I chose this story because it demonstrates a common theme in Western myths and legends: redemption. I realized that I need to give you some background information first. This story takes place about 3,000 years ago in a place that is now called Israel. Back then, the Israelites were a loose alliance of related tribes. They were not yet unified under a single king. Instead, they had several religious leaders who also acted as judges, warriors, and military commanders. There was a lot of violence back then. Samson is supposed to be one of these priest warriors, aka Nazarite. Now that the exposition is out of the way, let's start by reviewing the vocabulary and example sentences. After I have finished the story, I will ask you 4 listening comprehension questions. Time to get started. Vocabulary. Conceive. Conceive. Your baby was conceived in January, so it will be born in September. Intermittent. Intermittent. She's only an intermittent staff member, not full-time. Vow. Vow. She made a vow never to steal again. Sacred. Sacred. For Muslims, this city is sacred. Go berserk. Go berserk. If my mother found out I failed the entrance exam, she would go berserk. Bad blood. Bad blood. There has been bad blood between these two families for years. Rack one's brains. Rack one's brains. He was in a difficult situation and racked his brains for a solution. Spill the beans. Spill the beans. The police found our money because someone spilled the beans. Now the story. A long time ago in ancient Israel, in the town of Zorah, there lived a man called Manoah. He and his wife desperately wanted a child, but they could not conceive. One night, an angel appeared to his wife and said, "Though you are barren and have had no children, yet you will conceive and bear a son." The angel then gave her specific instructions not to eat bad food or drink alcohol. He explained that her son would be a Nazarite from birth, which was very unusual as all Nazarites were adults. When the wife asked why, the angel said, "It is he who will begin the deliverance of Israel from the power of the Philistines." The wife bowed to the angel, and then she and her husband offered a sacrifice to God. As the sacrificial lamb burned on the altar, the angel ascended into heaven in the smoke. You might be wondering, who were the Philistines? The Philistines were the neighbors of the Israelites. And just like the Israelites, they were a loose collection of related tribes. They and the Israelites had been in intermittent conflict for the past 40 years. When one tribe made peace, another one would start fighting. Things were scary, and the Israelites feared losing their land to the Philistines, who outnumbered them. To protect themselves, the Israelites relied on the Nazarites to fight in battle. They were a special class of men who had taken a solemn vow to consecrate their lives to God. As a sign of their special status, they never cut their hair or beard, nor did they ever drink alcohol. It was believed that these men were sacred and possessed great powers given to them by God. Samson was the first person to be a Nazarite from birth. Samson's extra special status put a lot of fear in people. Not only was he sacred, but he was super strong. When he was enraged, he would get into a violent frenzy and go berserk. Everyone was extra nice to him, and they would give him anything that he asked for. If he wanted honey, they would give him honey. If he wanted their shoes, they would give him their shoes. No one ever said no to him. As a result, Samson turned into a terrible bully. One day, Samson visited a town on the border between his tribe and a tribe of Philistines. He saw a beautiful Philistine girl and immediately wanted to have her. He went to his parents and said, "There is a Philistine woman I saw in Timnah, whom I wish you to get as a wife for me." Samson's parents looked at each other nervously. Manoah spoke. Son, are you sure you want to marry a Philistine? Can't you find a girl from your own tribe?" Samson stared at him and said, "Get her for me, for she pleases my eye." How could his parents say no? On their way to visit the girl's family, a lion charged at them. Samson used his super strength to kill the lion and protect his parents. They left the lion's body on the side of the road and continued on their journey. The girl was a member of a tribe that had signed a truce with the Israelites. However, there was still a lot of bad blood between them. No one but Samson was excited for this marriage. Manoah spoke with the girl's father to arrange a wedding banquet. Wedding banquets back then were very big affairs. Some lasted several days. When it was time for the wedding, Samson returned to the girl's village. On the way, he passed the dead lion. He noticed a beehive inside the corpse. He stuck his hand in and ate some of the honey. Samson continued on his journey without telling anyone what he saw. As was tradition, the girl's father assigned 30 of his men to be Samson's groomsmen. Their job was to entertain Samson by playing games and chatting merrily. That would be the case if they were happy about the marriage, which they were not. Mostly, they sat around quietly eating their food. Samson broke the silence and said, "Let me propose a riddle to you. If within the 7 days of the feast you solve it, I will give you 30 fancy shirts. But if you cannot answer it, you must give me 30 fancy shirts." The groomsmen agreed, and this is the riddle. Out of the eater came food. Out of the strong came sweetness. The 30 groomsmen racked their brains trying to figure it out, but they couldn't. On the 3rd day, they went to the girl and asked her to ask Samson for the answer. "If you don't," one of them threatened, "we'll kill you." The poor girl had no choice but to try to get the answer from Samson, which she managed to do on the 7th day. When the 30 groomsmen gave the answer to Samson, he said, "If you had not asked my wife, you would not have found the answer." Samson then stormed out of the banquet and walked 30 miles to the territory of a Philistine tribe that was still at war with Israel. There, he killed 30 men and took their shirts. He gave the blood-stained garments to the groomsmen and stomped away to his own village, leaving his new wife behind. Months passed, and the girl's father thought that Samson had abandoned his wife, effectively divorcing her. So he decided to marry her to someone else. When Samson returned unexpectedly and demanded to be with his wife, the father said, "I thought for certain you wished to divorce her, so I gave her to your best man. Would you like to marry my other daughter instead?" Samson grew angry and left, but he was determined to get revenge. He caught 300 foxes and tied torches to their tails. He then let them loose on the Philistines' wheat fields, burning the entire crop. This act broke the truce between Samson's tribe and the Philistine tribe. War was declared. An army of 1,000 men was gathered to take Samson prisoner. Samson grabbed the jawbone of a donkey and lunged at his attackers. He went completely berserk and killed all 1,000 men. Samson was still on the run. Because he had started a war, he was not welcomed by either the Philistines or his own tribe. He ran away to Gaza and hid himself in a local inn that was run by an infamous woman named Delilah. The chiefs of the Philistines found out where Samson was hiding, but they feared his strength. They bribed Delilah to seduce him and find out his secret weakness. After several tries, she eventually got Samson to spill the beans. The secret was his hair. Samson's vow to God was sealed with his long uncut hair. If you cut the hair, you break the vow, and Samson loses his powers. Delilah snipped all the hair off Samson's head while he was sleeping. She called in the Philistine chiefs, who tied up Samson and took him away. The Philistines didn't want to kill Samson right away. They wanted him to suffer, so they poked out his eyes and tied him to a millstone, which he was forced to turn night and day. This lasted for several months until the Feast of Dagon. Dagon was the primary god of the Philistines, and his feast day was a big event. All the Philistine chiefs gathered together in the temple to celebrate. One stood up to give a toast. "Our God has delivered into our power Samson, our enemy." He then pointed at poor Samson, who had been tied up between two pillars for their amusement. They laughed at him and threw food at him. Then another Philistine chief said, "See what is possible if we all stick together? If all the tribes of the Philistines united as one, we could wipe out the Israelites once and for all." The crowd cheered. By now the temple was completely full with revelers. Perhaps as many as 3,000 Philistines from every tribe were there. Samson heard all of this and prayed to God. He said, "O Lord, remember me. Strengthen me, God, this last time. Let me die with the Philistines." Samson suddenly felt a surge of strength as he pushed on the two pillars supporting the temple roof. The whole thing came crashing down on Samson and the 3,000 Philistines. Weeks later, Samson's father, Manoah, arrived and found his son's body. He took him back to his village and gave him a proper burial. People still visit his tomb to this day. Listening comprehension questions. Number 1. What instructions did the angel give to Samson's mother? A. Don't drink wine or eat bad food. B. Don't get your hair cut until you give birth. C. Don't smoke. D. Leave your family and go to Vegas. Question 2. How did Samson's parents feel about his choice of wife? A. They thought she was a great choice. B. They thought she was a bad choice. C. They had no strong feelings about her. D. They didn't know Samson got married. Question 3. What was the source of Samson's power? A. Gamma radiation. B. Genetic mutation. C. His vow to God. D. He was bitten by a radioactive spider. Question 4. What was the answer to Samson's riddle? A. A restaurant. B. A beehive. C. A lion. D. A beehive inside of a lion.